In 1930, a man named Michael Cullen opened a store in an abandoned garage in Jamaica, Queens, New York City. It wasn't much to look at. The space was rough, the lighting was basic, there were no elegant displays, no polished counters, no staff hovering nearby to assist you. But something about this store was completely different from anything that had come before it. Customers walked in, picked up a basket, and chose their own products directly from the shelves. They moved through the aisles at their own pace. They decided what they wanted, how much they wanted, and when they were ready to leave. That store was called King Kullen, and many historians consider it the first true supermarket in the world. What happened next didn't just change retail, it changed the way entire societies eat, shop, plan their weeks, and think about food itself. To understand why that moment mattered, you have to understand what came before it. For most of human history, buying food was a daily ritual, a personal one. You went to the butcher for meat, you went to the baker for bread, you stopped at a separate shop for vegetables, another for dairy, another for dry goods. Each visit involved a conversation, a negotiation sometimes. The shopkeeper knew your name, your preferences, your budget. This system worked, but it was slow, it was fragmented, and it placed enormous demands on time, particularly the time of women, who in most households carried the responsibility of feeding the family. In cities, you shopped every day or every other day because food spoiled quickly and home storage was limited. Refrigerators were rare, iceboxes were common but inconvenient. Most people simply bought what they needed and cooked it that same day. There was something intimate about this system, something local and human, but it was also exhausting. And as cities grew larger, as families moved further from markets, as work schedules became more rigid, the old way of shopping began to show its limits. Something had to give. The structural innovation that changed everything wasn't a single technology. It wasn't a law or a scientific discovery. It was a concept: self-service. The idea that customers could walk through a space, see all available products at once, and choose without asking. No waiting for a clerk, no describing what you needed, just you, the shelf, and the product. It sounds obvious now, but at the time, it was a radical rethinking of the relationship between buyer and seller. Before self-service, most grocery stores kept products behind a counter. You told the shopkeeper what you wanted, they retrieved it. You didn't touch the merchandise until you paid for it. Self-service removed that barrier entirely. And when King Kullen opened in 1930, it combined self-service with something else: scale. The store was massive compared to anything that had existed before. It stocked thousands of products under one roof. It offered lower prices by buying in bulk and passing savings to customers. The combination was explosive. Other retailers watched. Some were skeptical. Many were convinced this was a fad, a novelty that would appeal to bargain hunters but not to serious shoppers. They were wrong. Through the 1930s and 1940s, supermarkets multiplied across the United States, then across Europe, then across the rest of the industrialized world. The timing wasn't accidental. The Great Depression made price sensitivity a matter of survival. Supermarkets, with their lower costs and higher volume, offered something the old corner store simply couldn't match. And after World War II, everything accelerated. Suburban expansion created new neighborhoods without established market districts. Families moved to areas where the corner butcher and the local baker simply didn't exist yet. The supermarket filled that gap, and in doing so, it became the default. Car ownership rose, and the supermarket was built for the car. Large parking lots, wide aisles for carts, enough space to load up for a full week rather than a single day. The weekly shop became a routine. Instead of buying food daily, families now bought everything at once. Saturday morning trips, a full cart, a week's worth of planning compressed into a single outing. Refrigerators became standard household appliances, making it possible to store perishables for days rather than hours. Frozen food sections appeared in supermarkets in the 1950s, and freezers followed into homes. The cold chain extended. Food could now travel further, last longer, and be prepared faster. Brands emerged. National advertising campaigns told people which cereal, which soup, which margarine to trust. The supermarket shelf became a landscape of logos, colors, and promises. Companies competed not just on price, but on recognition, on packaging, on association with comfort and convenience. Carts were introduced. Fluorescent lighting was installed. Music began playing softly in the background, carefully chosen to slow your pace and encourage longer visits. None of this happened by accident. Every element of the supermarket experience was engineered. The placement of essential items like dairy and bread at the back of the store, forcing customers to walk past everything else. The eye-level positioning of higher-margin products. The strategic placement of candy near the checkout. The supermarket wasn't just a store. It was an environment designed to influence behavior. Over decades, the supermarket quietly restructured the way people relate to food. Cooking habits changed. Before supermarkets, most recipes were built around what was locally available and in season. You cooked with what the market had. Seasonality wasn't a philosophy, it was simply reality. Supermarkets broke that constraint. Suddenly, strawberries were available in winter. Oranges appeared in regions that never grew them. Spices from across the world sat in uniform jars on the same shelf. The season became irrelevant to the shopping basket. This opened extraordinary possibilities. It also quietly disconnected people from the rhythms of agriculture that had shaped cooking for generations. Processed food expanded to fill the supermarket's promise of convenience. Canned goods had existed for over a century, but the supermarket gave them a cathedral. Ready meals, instant soups, prepackaged snacks, fortified cereals. Each product was a solution to a problem. Time, effort, uncertainty. Families ate differently. More reliably in many ways, but differently. Cooking became less of a necessity and more of a choice. For some households, it remained central. For others, it gradually gave way to products that required only heating, assembling, or opening. The relationship between people and the origin of their food grew more abstract. Where once you bought a chicken from a butcher who might have told you where it came from, now you chose between 3 packages with different labels, prices, and weight. This wasn't loss in a simple sense, it was transformation. Food became more accessible. Prices over time dropped in real terms. Nutritional deficiencies that once affected large portions of the population became less common as a greater variety of foods reached more people. But the distance grew, between the farm and the plate, between the animal and the meal, between the season and the shelf. And as that distance grew, new questions emerged about health, about sustainability, about what people actually wanted to eat and why. Farmers' markets reappeared, now as conscious choices rather than necessities. Organic sections grew inside supermarkets themselves. Labels multiplied: free range, locally sourced, non-GMO, artisanal. The supermarket had reshaped eating so thoroughly that the reaction to it, the desire to return to something more connected, found its home right back on the supermarket shelf. Today, the supermarket is so deeply embedded in daily life that it's almost invisible. It's simply where food comes from. We push our carts through familiar aisles, following patterns that feel instinctive but were in fact learned, shaped by decades of design, marketing, habit, and infrastructure. The store Michael Cullen opened in that garage in Queens in 1930 set in motion a transformation that touched every household, every kitchen, every meal in the industrialized world, and, increasingly, beyond it. The choices we make in those aisles, what to buy, what to avoid, what to look for on a label, are part of a conversation that has been unfolding for nearly a century. And with every new development, Online grocery delivery, algorithm-driven personalization, vertical farming, lab-grown protein, the transformation continues. The supermarket changed how we eat. And how we eat is still changing.